In this episode of Our Flood Resilient Home, we're heading to the village of Yalding in Kent. We'll be meeting the Chapman family and hearing about how flooding's affected their home and the range of different ways in which they've made their property more flood resilient. This episode is sponsored by Flood Re. The village of Yalding is situated in the Medway Valley in the county of Kent. The Tees, Belt and Medway rivers flow through the village, and it's an area in which severe flooding has occurred. When Tim and June moved into their home, there were property flood resilience measures in place, such as the flood skirt that can be lifted up to surround the building. But in December 2013, these barriers were overtopped, and their home was flooded.
Well, it was Christmas, yes. We had all the lights on, everything, the tree up, everything. It was lovely. Christmas Eve morning, the power went off. So I started up with the little generator and got the main sun pump working. And it stopped it for a while. Eventually, it just came over the top of the skirt. About 1 o'clock Christmas Day morning. And I just turned the generator off and said, that's it, can't do anything more. Waded in and went to bed. Woke up in the morning freezing cold. I looked downstairs and there was all our furniture bobbing away. I waded out to the door, couldn't open the doors because of the pressure. So I thought, well, we're stuck here now.
Well, even when it had gone, we couldn't open the front door, it sealed itself.
Yeah, we got taken to the bridge and one of our neighbours from across the river said, come on. And we were marched across, we were up to the house where they had power in the kitchen and everything else, and we sort of dried out and had a fantastic Christmas dinner about sort of 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Strange, very surreal.
We've never met.
Very surreal.
After the flood, the Chapmans spent 15 months out of their home. But it was during this time that they decided they did not want the building to be put back in the same configuration that would once again leave it exposed and vulnerable to flooding. They wanted it to be made more flood resilient. Now, given that their 1.2 metre high flood skirt had been overtopped, higher barriers and resistance-based approaches to property flood resilience did not seem appropriate. So instead they explored vertical adaptation and chose to have an extra story added to their building and reconfigured the location of their living and sleeping areas. These changes have improved the building's resilience to flooding and significantly reduced the trauma and disruption that flooding causes to the family's life. We're now going to hear from Tim and June about the range of different property flood resilience measures that they've had integrated into the building's design.
How deep can the flood skirt keep the water out?
It keeps certainly out to a metre. Okay, so it's about 1.2 metres high.
But the skirt goes up, clips onto these up here, and goes all around the house. It's 86 metres all around the house. And this is a single piece skirt with enough slackening on the corners to go around the corners. It's got a shelf life of about 30 years, the actual rubber. It's made of a sort of good quality butyl. So that's basically the skirt. This is one of the seepage pumps. Water will seep through, you can splash over it if it rains. And basically the seepage pump, any water that gets behind the skirt is pumped straight out. So just like that, just runs it over. Skirt's here, so it comes over. This here is a shut-off valve for the downstairs toilet. So basically just shove that down and that closes and so it stops the water coming back up through the toilet. All the drain pipes under the ground have all got non-return valves. So the water comes out, it can't go back in. When we were actually in the house and it's floods, and it got 3 or 4 days, we had to stop using the toilet. Because the pipes fill up. Another thing we thought of, we went and bought an Elson toilet. So we can put that in the toilet and we can use that. So just no baths. So we smell a bit, but at least we can use the toilet. The Environment Agency actually supplied most of the houses that flood in Yalding with these, and we've got them around the two entrance doors to the house. They're steel inserts, absolutely solid. Are basically waterproof, or sort of leak proof, but with the skirts and the door behind it, nothing gets through it. So that's quite handy. It stops the door being pushed in, we don't want to damage the door.
Yeah.
So they're dead handy.
Then it's up to across there. But you can talk to people because obviously the water's down there.
Ground floor basically is just an open space which we use to entertain parties in here and stuff. But it's not a living space as such. The thing about sort of setting a house up for flood defence is you have to think of everything. So power plugs all up out the way. The flood in the house in 13 did get up to here, but this floor is isolated.
Right.
So when we need to, we just flick the switch, and this complete floor doesn't have any power in it at all, which is fine, which is how it works, which is how we designed it. Solid floor, water doesn't come up through the floor. We've got massive great sump pumps in the garage, 5-inch sump pumps. So when the pressure builds up, the sump pumps do the job. As long as we've got power, we're fine. This kitchen we put in after we rebuilt the house, basically because we've got the main kitchen upstairs, but we do entertain down here, so we still use the space even though it can flood. So we've got a stainless steel kitchen. If it gets wet, it gets wet.
Yeah.
What we do is wash it down.
Yeah.
Fine. If we know it's going to flood, we can move the more valuable stuff out of the way. If we were going to be in danger, we had about an hour to get everything moved. So we've plenty of time for it.
Yeah.
So you have to be pragmatic about these things. We start panicking and humping everything upstairs at the first little warning, you'll pull your hair out. So we set ourselves so we can sort of climb on from in and out.
Okay.
We've got a pair of waders each, we've got torches, we're all dressed in nice warm clothes. If the power goes, we've got a generator which runs the whole house.
Yeah.
So we've got plenty of light, got heating still, everything. So we're self-sufficient.
Yeah. For how many days?
We can be self-sufficient as long as the generator lasts. So we get fuel. I've got about 4 days fuel anyway.
Yeah.
This is the generator, 15 kilowatts, powers the whole house, all the pumps, everything. Fantastic. We've got a ventilation system, the window comes out, put a fan in there, it sucks everything out. There's no chance of any CO2, we've got CO2 alarms. And we've got emergency access over there, there's a door that goes into our bedroom actually. We move our bed and basically we can come in and keep the maintenance on the generator without having to go downstairs and back up again. Hopefully we've thought of almost everything we can fit, that would need to be done. Every now and then if it happens, you get a flood, you see where you've got to change things and you do it straight away. Don't wait months, do it straight away.
Well, that's the thing, is when's it going to get tested next?
It's like, well, this last winter it flooded in December, then again in February, and then again in March. So it wasn't much time to get things sorted out. But we did it.
So when you bought the house, did you know how to actually operate and run the...
Well, the previous owner sort of leave anything more than stick skirt up, turn pumps on. Which when we arrived, I phoned up the builder and the guy who put the skirt in, and he came and explained it. He was lovely. He just went through the whole thing and showed me how it all works. And I put together my flood skirt sort of booklet, which explains to anybody who ever buys the house or whatever, or moves in or whatever in the future, it's all there. Not a little piece of paper left on the kitchen table. It's the whole thing.
So that's your kind of car user's manual on how
It's my Haynes manual on flood skirt.
Right.
When the skirt's up, people say, what's happening? We do have to discuss it.
Or the neighbours go, I've got the skirt up. Oh, something must be happening.
I suppose it's a bit of it is a bit of a beacon or the community, isn't
Yes.
it?
Here we go, Tim's got his skirt.
Yeah.
He does say that.
What was it that made you think about, doing something a bit different, adding an extra story?
Well, because we love the place. We love living in it. We love the area, love the people. And we thought, we don't want to move away from here. We had the business, we operate the post office next door.
Yeah.
So we said, right, if we can, we'll go up. That's what
But also, I didn't want to worry every time. I mean, it hasn't come in since, but there was all that minute chance that it would come over the barrier because it's done it before.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be worrying that all my kitchen, my living room, my, everything downstairs would just be ruined again. Well, what's downstairs now is all movable. So if the worst happens to the worst, we don't have to move. The worst part was moving out. Nothing else was a worry, really. I mean, it was, annoying, but the moving out and living in rented accommodation, trying to find someone that would take dogs, it's very, very disruptive. Whereas, if it happened again, then it would just, it would be annoying and irritating, but we'd still live here. We wouldn't have to move out. That's the main thing, really.
And from what I've seen, it looks great and it ties in really well.
It does.
What's been the reaction from other people in the community?
They thought we were always here.
People think it's just a grand mill house, and it never looked like a mill house before. It just looked like a cottage. But now we think it looks lovely, and everybody who speaks to it thinks it's fantastic. People think it's been here for centuries.
But the thing is, if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't come up with it. We wouldn't have such a nice house. It should be bizarre, isn't it? For like the silver lining of
It has to be a silver
the
lining
kitchen
something.
that I wanted, as opposed to the kitchen that was there, which is really weird at the time because it's very distressing just to sweep it all away. But the silver lining bit is we're living in a house that we like living in, and it suits us.
And I suppose that when you think about you saying how many times it's maybe flooded since that point, each of those floods could have caused damage that would have cost money to put back in anyway. So
Yes,
actually,
it would have been far more stressful.
everyone that you're avoiding, you're saving, and absolutely, like the stress that you're avoiding is also something that can't always be quantified in financial terms.
No,
really.
no, that's right. No, it's very stressful. It's not a healthy thing to be flooded.
But it sounds like that 15 months is now down to hours and days, which is incredible, really, to be changing that.
We built with resilience in.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So it can be done. It's a nuisance more than anything else.
Well, it sounds like it's a nuisance that you're now prepared for, and you've got quite a lot of things that you can do. Because that level of water would still cause a lot of damage in many other people's homes, which haven't been made that resilient.
You couldn't live here, really, if you didn't manage it.
Think of how to live with it and work around it.
You don't want to be replacing everything.
Yeah.
You want to be able to jet wash it down and then start again with it.
Whereas we probably sort of had a sort of dread feeling, we don't now. We know what to do. Yeah, this is the reason we didn't move. This is the reason why we said, no, we're going to build the house up, live upstairs, because who would want to leave all this? Absolutely glorious.
Back in 2014, when Tim and June began the process of reinstating the building, the idea of making your home more flood resilient post-flood was not widespread, and there was little or no financial support for these improvements. So they added their own savings on top of the insurance rebate to undertake the works. But what's positive to see in the current day is that there are now initiatives that can support homeowners in improving the flood resilience of their property when it's being repaired post-flood. For example, in 2022, Flood Re announced the launch of a new proposition called Build Back Better. This initiative allows people, through participating insurers, to claim a betterment allowance of up to £10,000 to enable the rebuilding of flood-affected properties to a more flood-resilient state. This way, the next time the area floods, their home will be better prepared to keep as much of the floodwater out as possible. Measures can also be installed so that when water does enter, it's easier, quicker and safer for families to clean up and move back in, often in a number of days rather than months. You can find out more information about this initiative at floodre.co.uk/buildbackbetter.